Sustaining Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Sandy Stream, author and activist. Please enjoy Sandy Stream. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. Today I am here with Sandy Stream, author and activist. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Mari.
I am super excited. Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited to chat with you about creativity and hear how kind of creativity shows up in activism, because I have a sense of where it might, but I'm curious to see where it does for you. But before we get there, why don't you let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
My name is Sandy, and education-wise, I'm a lawyer, but that's not been my primary feeling of myself, I guess you want to call it. Over the past 20 years, aside from the career aspect, I definitely was always delving in all kinds of creative endeavors, many of them to help myself and to feel better in whatever ways, movement, this, that. And recently, over the past few years, I had quite difficult years. I'd had difficult years before. I had even more difficult years than ever, if that was even possible. And from that, I really delved in deep into myself, I guess, watched a million talks, meditated a million hours, did anything and everything. And from that, I ended up finding a way to feel okay pretty much all the time, which seems to be quite unusual in our world. And so I documented this. I put it into a book, and it's called The Courage Circle. I called it that because I literally painted, if you want to start with creativity, I literally painted a circle in my living room, and I'm like, I'm going to sit in this circle. Like, it was during bad times. And I'm like, this is the Courage Circle. So I wrote that book, and now I facilitate circles in Montreal where we sit together and we discuss deep topics, all kinds of deep topics in a respectful way, and where I try to encourage people, and people learn to encourage each other also to basically be themselves.
Awesome. Like, that's amazing. I love it. I love the kind of self-exploration piece and how you took that kind of personal self journey and turned it into something that it sounds like is supporting others and changing how people are relating to each other. And I love that it's called the Courage Circle. That's so great, because it takes so much courage.
It absolutely takes so much courage in our world to be yourself. I think it is actually the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did you find the courage to find yourself?
Well, I think I just started focusing, sometimes it just takes a few nudges that happened, along the way in your life. And I started really focusing on, like, what's the truth? What's the absolute? Just what's true, not what's fun, not what's easy, not what's painless, not what's happy, what's actually true. And that was my kind of very, almost a scientific focus of what's true. And when you start to focus like that, you really find the truth about, what you feel or pains you've had or what you want. And, you start to be more and more honest. And then once you're finding, at least for me, you're finding a lot of these truths in yourself, it doesn't always match what other people might think you should do, say, or be, or anything else. So the courage comes from, following yourself instead of following what others might think you should be or do or anything else. So it does take courage. And there's a lot of unknown. People are not comfortable with the idea of an unknown,
Yeah.
because they don't know what's going to happen. So it takes a bit of a leap of faith, also another very courageous act to do something that just feels right without knowing what's going to happen, but just trusting, really deeply trusting those feelings.
Mm.
And so the more I was doing that, the more I realized, oh, I could totally trust my inner system. Like it totally works. Like it may not show immediately the results, but oh yeah, my inner system works as long as I pay attention. And so
Yeah.
that's what I try to encourage others to trust themselves. It's a message we don't get often, I feel. Anyways, I didn't get it much in my life. So
Yeah. While you're talking, all I'm thinking about is how connected to creativity everything sounds that you're saying.
it is.
Thinking about the quote that's attributed to Matisse, where he says, creativity takes courage, and trusting yourself takes courage, and exploring the unknown takes courage, and so much creativity. So, what does it mean to you to be creative?
I mean, I don't know what there is that isn't creative. So that might be the other question. What is not creative? So, okay, maybe the easier question is what is not creative, at least in my mind. So, what's not creative is when, we're operating from the head, which I like to call the calculator, like, like a real number calculator that's
Mhm.
calculating and measuring and you're thinking and whatever. And then, with different practices, when you start to get more in the body, whether it's dealing with trauma, even that's in the body,
Yeah.
or dance, or whatever it is that you're doing, or walking, or listening to music, you're all in your body. For me, that's all creative, because you're actually experiencing how you're moving in the world with whatever it is that you're moving. So my experience is anything that's not more in the calculator mind is more natural, intrinsic, creative expression, whether it is our one, this conversation we're having this moment, for me, that's creative,
Yeah.
or walking on the streets, looking at the trees, for me, that's creative. Everything is really creative.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I agree. Everything is
Yeah, do you?
creative.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I didn't listen to I listened to a few of your podcasts, but I kind of imagined that you would have that, not the same theory, but the exact same feeling
Yeah.
about that aspect. I imagine that that would be true for you, because I know you do a lot of movement and
Mhm.
dance and other things as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you describe kind of the thinking mind, the calculating mind, and that image of
yeah.
crunching numbers and the calculator, and how you're right. It is that's it can be creative for some people, and other people find creativity in more action or movement based expressions as well. So I love that piece. I very connect I connect a lot with it. Now, when going on this journey of self-discovery and courage for yourself, I imagine you came up against some challenges from time to time. What were some of the maybe more creative challenges that you came up against, and then how did you navigate them?
I well, I think just first of all, being in touch with, and I didn't mean to say that we don't have creativity in, mathematics and all the other things. We certainly do, but not the type of thinking head that's a calculator. But maybe I won't go into that
Yeah.
piece. But certainly when we're not in that kind of, critical measuring type, for sure, that is not going to be creative. But for me, the biggest challenge, I think, is the demonization of emotions that has permeated, my experience in my lifetime.
Mhm.
The not realizing or not understanding, maybe due to my environment or who I've interacted with in my life, that our emotions are perfectly natural and normal and should be listened to, as opposed to like, oh, you shouldn't feel sad, you shouldn't feel angry, and doing that to yourself, let alone what others are doing or saying to you, those messages that are just constant, telling you that something is wrong with your body, basically, that your body doesn't know what it's doing, or like there's something
Mhm.
wrong. So I think that creates all kinds of difficulties emotionally, and just to function in life is very difficult until you start to trust those emotions and trust yourself in that aspect, even if they're difficult sometimes, but they still get processed eventually if we go there. So that was a very, that took a long time to get to know, and then to, process a lot of old emotions that were around in order to arrive at a more peaceful existence. So that was a big challenge, I say, because the listening level of most people that I've interacted with in my life do not allow for the space to for people to just experience. Like it's always quick to either be dismissive of whatever somebody says, or
Mhm.
quickly to try to fix or give advice to something somebody said. There isn't just pure letting people like exist. It's a very
Mhm.
rare thing. So I try to do that in my circle, to really teach the different type of like listening, so that people can just say something, what they feel. We don't need to rush and fix it or change it, or to give, allowing the space for things to exist and people to exist in that moment without having to modify it quickly. So that was a very big challenge for me, to learn to do that for myself, because I didn't have so many people around doing that. Um, I think the second very, big challenge, and I was already pretty relaxed about not caring what people think too much. Like I would go to weird kind of dance classes. I was comfortably like walking on the street, humming and not caring. So I already had, I think, a higher level than most in terms of that, but then bringing that up to the max, meaning really living a life where I don't seek the approval from the exterior whatsoever. That is very liberating to your own freedom. And then whatever comes from that freedom, so be it, but it's more a liberation than it is like something to do. It's something to not do, or to
Mhm.
stop doing, I guess, to seek this outside approval and all that. So that's another big one, I think, for a lot of people
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Um, mhm.
You talk about trusting yourself, and I'm wondering if there are any kind of tips or pieces that you would share with someone who was starting that journey of learning to trust themselves.
I mean, your body knows, right? If we sit quietly enough, your body knows. So, I mean, asking yourself any question you want, if you do it quietly and
Mhm.
sit like and say, should I do this or should I do that? And not, analyze it, but feel it. So, again, the challenge is to learn
Yeah.
to feel, which many people have a hard time doing because they've been avoiding feeling for a long time. So
Hmm.
if you really try to see, what do I feel about this, we often know very much what to do. The fear is to follow it, but people know, they have
Hmm.
that inner information. The difficulty is to trust that your information is going to serve you.
Hmm.
um, I guess over time, we get a bit more confidence every time you do it. So you do it a bit, and then, you see that kind of worked out, and oh yeah, that was a good choice that I made. And I mean, ultimately, it's a question of who is going to get to decide. So should I, for example, is Mari going to get to decide if I should draw this flower or that flower, or am I going to decide? I mean, it really is like that. So we have to decide, like, do I want to own my choices, and do I know what to do, or am I have selected like three, five random people in this world who somehow know better than I do of what I should do in my life.
Yeah,
So it's
I
hard.
love
It's hard.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, but
It's not
I
easy to
love
trust
that.
yourself, but what's the alternative, right? I mean, you know yourself best.
Hopefully, you know yourself best.
Yeah. Well, who else would? Who knows all
Yeah,
your experiences, you
this
know?
is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminder of kind of starting slow and who am I trusting with this decision? Am I making the decision or is someone else making it? And that's a great reminder to
Yeah, and
start
it's hard.
practicing.
It's hard if everyone in your life has been like challenging everything you do, or every time you say something, I was like, "Oh yeah, why are you doing that?" And no, 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 no. Like it's hard. We don't have people around who are like, "Oh, like interesting." You know, let's say you say, "You know, I really think I should take a month off work. Like I'm not really feeling well, and I should take a month off work."
Mhm.
Would the answer be like, oh, that's too much, you don't need so much, da, da, or really, why, da, 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 or oh, really, oh, interesting, I trust that, you must, there must be reason why you're saying that. And we don't
Yeah.
often have people on the other side saying, oh, interesting, yeah, like that must be
Mhm.
valid, if you're really feeling that. So
Right.
most of us don't grow up with that
This is
response
true.
that, oh
Yeah.
yeah, makes sense. If you think so, must be good.
Yeah. To trust that inner
Mhm.
knowing
Yeah.
and it kind of goes hand in hand with those two challenges to trust yourself and not let other people's opinions run the show.
Yeah. And that's another tough one, right? Because,
Mhm.
somehow we're raised and taught that other people get to decide, how good we are. Like there's some
Yeah.
kind of point system. I get points if I get a degree, I get points. If this one likes me, I get points, like all over. And so we're constantly trying to get points. Oh, this one liked my this, and it's a bit
Yeah.
of a funny system that we're doing. But if we start to feel ourselves deeply and realize that we're just good, like there's nothing to prove in the world, like we're made fine, there's nothing wrong in there, which is difficult maybe for many people to arrive at that feeling and realize, oh no, I'm good, nothing. Maybe I made mistakes, maybe I'm like learning, but there's nothing like deeply flawed there.
Mhm.
Then we no longer are trying to kind of get that
Mhm.
feeling from other people, right? Because we feel it ourselves. So I don't need
Yeah.
someone else to tell me, oh yeah, if you do this, you're good, and you get more points for doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I totally understand it. I mean, you strike me as someone who has found a lot of inspiration throughout your life and in things that you do, but I'm curious today in your world, who or what inspires you?
Um, what I really love is to move. So it would be fun one day, Mari. I don't know how I'm going to end up meeting you or not, but I suspect you're like a playful mover, not just moving like for exercise. And so I still get, I'm very inspired by movement in general. I find it very fun to move freely
Mhm.
because that's how we kind of express ourselves in the world, also in physical realms. I
Yeah.
try different activities. I've been trying slacklining, which is fun. Those ropes where you
Oh
balance.
yeah.
I find that super fun, and something else called rope flow. And I've tried Gaga dance, which is fun too. I don't know if you know what
Love it.
Gaga is. Maybe you've heard. Whatever.
I
It's a
I
movement
don't know what it
thing.
is, but it
Whatever.
sounds
Yeah, you
super
can look
fun.
up. Yeah. And then at my yoga studio, they have where I do the courage circles. They also have once in a while, like they call it ecstatic dance. I don't know the whole theory behind it, but it's
Yeah.
just a DJ play music and everyone moves however they want, crazy. So for me, that's very fun. It's just free, right? Like just
Yeah.
freedom. Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, it sounds like you get a lot of creativity sparks or pieces from movement. I'm so curious, kind of in childhood, like what's your earliest memory of being creative?
Probably music. So I was lucky that my parents are quite musical. So I was exposed to just so many genres of music nonstop,
Mm-hmm.
and dance. And so I do remember trying, not well, but loving to try to play the guitar and sing along with that. And I was
Yeah.
drawing and yeah, but for me, like I said, it's the creativity goes beyond doing just arts or music. It's coming up with an idea of how to tie a rope when something's breaking, or it could be anything, right? It can pop. It's just ideas that come a lot whenever you're already released from spending so much time thinking about, like I said, this funny point systems or approval or insecurity because you think you're flawed or processing all the most. So when those things are just kind of gone, then I think just more and more ideas just come of whatever. Oh, I'm gonna like build a weird bookshelf, or I'm gonna whatever. You just get ideas because you've been
Yeah.
freed from all those worries.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you have freed up so much space for you to have
Yeah.
fun, exciting, different, unique, special ideas that
Yeah.
you want to try or you're curious about.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't need anybody's permission to try them. So that
Right.
is nice too. Well, that's a whole other thing, right? When you get an
Yeah.
idea, but if you start thinking, oh, that's a stupid idea and I shouldn't do that and whatever, instead of like, hey, I feel like trying this, so I will. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So but it's hard. I mean, it takes many pieces of the puzzle. I wasn't always feeling this way. Like I said, it took many pieces of the puzzle um,
Yeah.
to arrive at such a feeling. And I hope to share it with others because I truly believe each person is quite remarkable, actually, when they do, not get rid of those aspects, but see those aspects for what they are and access a different part of them. Like people are just absolutely amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I hope I do my little piece. I know you're doing your little piece in the world. Everybody's doing their little piece. And to just, give that permission to others or example to others to live more freely.
I love that. Now, if you were to have someone come in and tell you, I don't think I'm creative, I don't have a creative bone in my body, how would you encourage them to find creativity in their life?
I think just like I said, starting to process their emotions, to see, are they sad or why are they sad? Why are they angry? What's going on in their life in general? Like that's definitely a big one. Like I said, if we're very stressed and very hurt and very angry, we're not necessarily in that space to feel very creative. Although, like I said, sometimes I did feel I was drawing and doing creative things to deal with traumas. It could be very useful, actually.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I've had many times in my life, when you're dealing with major issues, you're certainly not feeling creative. And so you got to address those issues, I guess.
Mhm.
And like I said, one of the main things I think is to stop demonizing emotions and starting to listen to them instead and seeing what you actually need. So
Mm.
if you're sad, maybe you're lonely and you need to look for friends, or, so the sadness is telling you something. Or if you're angry, maybe you need to put some boundaries if you're not feeling respected, or,
Mhm.
so to start to listen to yourself.
Great
Yeah.
reminders to listen
Mm.
to yourself. Easier said
Mm.
than done sometimes if
Yeah.
it's a new skill to
Yeah.
practice. What
Yeah.
are some ways that you can start listening to yourself?
Well, again, like it's in the body, right? So listening to yourself in the head, that's usually like a critic, often put there by another person. So the way I see, when you're thinking guilty things or shameful things or putting yourself down things, that's not like an emotion. In my mind, that's more a thought that's been put in there by
Yeah.
others, right? So if your parents called you an idiot your whole childhood, for example, you might have that thought lingering in your head, oh, I'm such an idiot, or, so it's not really yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go try more, see what's in the body, literally say, like, what do I feel? And almost even having to name them. Am I sad, or am I angry, or am I, this? Am I
Mm-hmm.
frustrated? And starting to just name them in the body, and starting to feel your body, basically. A lot of people don't even feel it. And that's why
Right.
meditation is so useful, because you start to actually connect and feel the body, like literally
Mm-hmm.
have I
Yeah.
guess the mind body, when they say mind body connection, they literally mean we cannot feel our
Right.
body. Yeah. Can't
Yeah.
feel it because we're kind of cut off. We've been avoiding so many emotions because, if parents were not allowing emotions, which I think many parents don't, and they don't name
Yeah.
them and allow them. And so we were not used to allowing that. So it's a whole thing to educate yourself, but reparent yourself in a way, right? Even as
Yeah.
an adult, you have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And explore and practice. And
Yeah.
I love the
And
invitation
draw. Mhm. Mhm.
to start asking yourself, how do I feel? Check in,
Yeah.
see how
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can draw it actually. Drawing is a wonderful way to see the truth of the body, because you're not in the head. When you draw, your hand is the body. So it will draw more realistic things than the thoughts you might have. So you can just say, how do I feel? And like draw a little face and see, like, what does the face look like? Like, even if it's like stick figure or whatever, it can
Yeah.
really help you see what's the truth. What are you
Mm.
truly experiencing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that little tip that to take some paper and draw. I think that's fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
I just have one last question for you.
Okie doke.
What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
What does it feel like in my body? Such a good question. For me, it just feels like something happening just naturally, I guess. So in my body, it just feels like almost like water, I would say. Like
Yeah.
it's just coming out, like as if there's some kind of movement, and then you just let it
Mm.
express itself. But like something is already there, and then it comes out. So whether it's a movement or a drawing or a word or a song, it's still something inner that's going to the outer, I guess, in a natural,
Mhm.
effortless way, because you're not doing it for another purpose other than it coming out, I guess. Or so there's something about the intention, I think, that also really matters about that.
I
Yeah.
love it. That's so fantastic. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. If people want to learn more about the work that you do, the book that you wrote, how could they go about doing that?
Well, I can go on my website there. It's called thecouragecircle.com. And
Mhm.
there you could join the meetup and come to one of the circles if you're in Montreal, which is such a beautiful city, by the way. So, welcome to join our free meetups.
Mm.
And if you want to buy the book, also, whatever, there's links on my website as well, or contact me. It's all there.
Perfect. Well, I will add that to show notes so people have easy access. And thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. It has been a pure pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Mari. It was really nice to be here.
Wonderful. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.